All right, what's up, everybody? Good to be back for another stream. We have a lot of stuff to go over today. We obviously have the entire set revealed, which gives us a ton to talk about. Obviously, every time a set drops, I love to do a stream to kind of reverse engineer or just analyze the set as a whole, kind of, you know, do an initial analysis, maybe pick up on some clues that the devs are trying to throw us, things like that. But as far as the tier list, yep, Kyle got it in the chat already. Tier list is next week. The idea for that is I need a little bit more time because I take the tier list super serious and try to make it as accurate as I possibly can, get as much intel. And I'm just not ready right now. So I prefer to do it. Um, I want to put out the best thing that I can, and I need one more week to do that. Right? I need to play a couple more interactions with the new cards, kind of get you know a better feel for things, and kind of just really tank on what is going to shift in the meta, how people kind of predict how people are going to answer certain things. It's you know it's a lot. It's a lot, and I try to take it as serious as I possibly can. So, what's up, Nico? Good to see you. Devs throwing clues for pirates. That is true. And they did it in the form of a very, very expensive card, and that is Take the Shelter. It is like literally um, no tier guys till next week. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But like I said, I just want to make sure it's right. Um, because I learned probably 3 or 4 things today, and I was like, okay, well, if I learn those things today, if I had that much volume of like, okay, this matchup is not what I thought it was, then there's obviously a lot more to be learned because I'm still learning at such a rate that, if that makes sense. So, and we got a show match, like Kyle mentioned, on Friday um with Team Blue Pitch. And I will be playing Bin Set. We're gonna see if Cole has the, you know, is that the make or break? Does that make it finally enough to where people will really give that hero the credit that she may or may not deserve? And I'm gonna try to prove it. We'll see. We will see. You sensing any bans incoming? We can spend a little bit talking about that for sure. Um, I I don't think there's anything that goes right off the bat, but we'll spend some time thinking about some potential. I don't like to doom and gloom right when stuff comes out because everybody's like, "Oh, this is broken. Let's ban it." No, there's one card in particular that I'm like, "Wow, that is a card of all time." Then, if time permits, if we don't spend too long on the reverse engineering of the set, we are going to play some Dagger Zen, uh, for just play a couple Tower Shard games, whatever. Get some gameplay in because I really miss doing that. Um, yeah, that's kind of the idea of the stream today. Ban Codex. I mean, the biggest offense that Codex actually does is the fact that it's like $90. That's the biggest thing for me. Is it a good card? Obviously. Is it in a vacuum? It's probably the best card in the game. That goes in the deck. But I kind of get the idea, right? Because like I think Brian actually mentioned this on the some forum. I forget, but like somebody questioned, is Codex too good? It was probably on a podcast or something. If I'm not mistaken, his response kind of was, it's okay for heroes to have a really strong card if like the overarching package is not overwhelming, right? And it brings up an interesting conversation of, you know, if the package increases in power, is it still justifiable to have that card in that package? And that's a fair point. That is one that we can definitely talk about for sure. Love the show matches with each set. Really kicks it off. I appreciate that. Hope everybody joins us, get some ideas on some deck lists. Of course, we share every one of them in the Card Guys Discord um, after the match. And I hope everybody just swings by, has a good time, enjoys the commentary. We got some killers coming. The new assassin Yellow Majestic. Mm, we'll see. I don't think assassin needs Kodak. Yeah, that's kind of the point I was getting at. 7 to 8 for 0 with an on his pretty good, it seems. I mean, turns out, turns out. Boy, I'm sure glad assassin isn't overwhelming. It kind of is a little bit. It's getting to that point for sure. But let's go ahead and dig into the set and kind of let's talk about. We're going to mention the cards that we have not on the previous streams. We're not going to rehash. And then I'm going to give kind of my overarching analysis on what the hero needs to be doing to kind of give people an idea in their deck building ventures, a good place to start, maybe something to consider if they've already started. And for all intents and purposes, I am considering Slippy or Arachne Slip Through the Cracks to be a hero in the set, obviously, because he just got released, even though he's technically not in the set, if I'm not mistaken, on the point of a technicality. So, we will be going over all 4 of those heroes in case anybody was wondering. So, let's go ahead and show that. Okay. So we obviously have let me make chat a little bit bigger so I can see, but also not cover up my frames because if I start dropping frames, it's important information to know. Is this going to be something that the decks are going to run? I don't think it is. It should be like any other Fable where people will try it, probably not land on it, which is very good design. You do not want a Fable to be a auto include into any deck, solely off the fact that it creates an even greater price burden on people purchasing decks, which it's one of the biggest flaws in Flesh and Blood right now is the prices. Although they are including a lot of mechanisms to help kind of fix that with the new Japanese packs that they released or whatever that have like the reprints and stuff like that. And I'm sure they'll come up with a couple more creative ways for sure. Did you ever expect to see that though? Shuffle opponent's deck. It is interesting. I love the flavor of this card, and no, I did not expect the shuffle part. Put the top card face down into Arsenal. That seems something that kind of coincides well with chaos, but forcing a shuffle in the opponent's deck is like there could be a situation where like if we get to a really slow meta and everybody's pitch stacking, maybe it's a very important part. But in the current state of things, I don't think that this will see play. Okay. We've already talked about all of these. We've talked about all of these. These are just a couple more stealth cards. I don't think we mentioned this one. Really good, 0 for 3. If the opponent is marked, which we saw a couple more ways to be marking the opponent, both with stealth cards themselves that on hit do that thing, and then also we got some Arsenal hate, some hand hate. We already went over all of those. I think this is a new one where it just gives a breakpoint on it, but I think that I don't know. I think a lot of these on hits are worth a lot more than one, although this is a guaranteed one. So if the assassins ever get in a situation where you're marking all the time and it's important to extract rate over on hit, this card could see play, but kind of unlikely in the current situation of things. We get caught up in chat. The only question is, are we running 6 or 9 up up the sticks and run? I'm gonna get into that. Kyle asked me what my favorite card is in the set, and that was my favorite card because I think it's gonna be hugely impactful. Um, and when we get into the Zen list as well, if we have time, play a couple games, you'll see exactly that answer on whether we run 6 or 9. Uh, did you see the new Briar card? I did not. I didn't? Is it like there's no Briar card? Not that I know of. I mean, there's this one, but like I'm not playing that in Briar because it costs 1. And it just doesn't work good. There's probably a generic or something that works well with it. I don't know. Could be. Maybe. Mm, yeah, we'll have to go through. Oh, the Briar card is spoiled in the purple. Okay. I did not. We'll check it out later, though. I appreciate it. We also have a couple more where this is kind of redundant, especially in Slippy. This card's awful, but in Mario or Marionette, whatever the name is, I'm going to call it Mario because that's what everybody else has been calling it. It is some consistency on the go again if you are lacking that, which not really because you need the go again. Yeah, this gets go again if they're marked. So does this. So yeah, it doesn't fix any problem. This one's just a limited ass card basically. If you actually look, I'm blocking you. Oh man. Oh, sound the alarm. Oh my god. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Do. Marionette, first hero to be able to play 4 Fable resource gems. Yes, that is a legal thing that you can do. We already had 4 shuffle with Bonds of Agony. Yes, but it had to hit. I think that's the distinction there for sure. Whereas this one, it's like it's happening no matter what. Um, use the gem to put a block card. I that would be kind of cool, right? But like, how many block cards are actively in the format is kind of the thing. Not that many. Okay, so limited card because it doesn't make sense really in either one. We've already talked about this one. This is a new React. This is kind of it's solid if you need a little bit of edge. If the meta becomes the flick knife situation, this is a great way to extract for value. I think there's a lot better ways to be extracting for value, like just running a 0 for 4 D React that extracts for value in other situations. The only upside to this is you can block a 3 attack and still get your 4 value instead of having to them have to attack for 4 or more to actually get your your value. Okay. So what I want to do is I kind of want to piece together we're going to hit the generics real quick, but then we're just going to talk assassin, okay? And then from that point on what we'll do is we will then just read the warrior cards, go over warrior, read ninja, go over ninja basically. So let's go to generic. We have well, I say generic. We'll do generic / split cards. Um This card's really good. It has a very high floor and with a possible upside, right? Like this is just better than any other head jab. This is like the new 100 win situation where you needed a head jab. It's just the best one. Assuming we go into a Flick Knives meta with the classes that can do that, which is a pretty safe assumption. Um, how is Sign the Alarm not majestic? That is a great question. That is a great question. There's no go again on Mark for the Agent of Chaos. That's a good point for that 1-0 for 3, but I don't know if you run a whole card to two-step that situation. I don't know though. Maybe you do. I don't know. Du-du-du-du. Put Chi in Arsenal? I mean, that's fair. Now we're getting somewhere, Kevin. Putting Chi in Arsenal. Okay. Y'all are starting to sell me on the Fable. Putting Chi in Arsenal? Okay. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. Maybe the Fable's a little bit better than I thought. I'll concede that point. Okay, like I said, best head jab in the game now. Assuming we go into that meta, we have Throw Dagger, which is a blue card unless you're Taylor Crawford, and then you always play it. Um, Target dagger you control that isn't on the active chain link deals 1 damage to the defending hero. If damage is dealt this way, dagger has hit and you draw a card. Which is pretty decent. I mean, it's a blue, right? Like, what honestly, the only downside of this card is you're trading the one value, right? You're like actively saying, I'm not blocking with this card or pitching it for some use. And for the blind variable of drawing a random card. And not only that, but drawing a random card in the context of how far you've made it down the turn, which is a little bit risky. It's not too risky because once again, it's a blue. There's very low opportunity cost being paid in this situation. So overall, I think it's a very solid card. Like, this is not going to be no $30 card or anything like that, but it's solid. It'll see play. That much I can be confident in saying. Cut through. Other gems and block cards as well. There's just not that many. Not that many. It's a card in Arsenal, so you can play CNC. All right, you guys are pitching it for the CNC. Oh, that's all right. But you're giving them a card. Wait, what? No, that's terrible, Nico. That's terrible. You're just giving them a card, right? When this is pitched, each hero shuffles them, but you're gaining a card. Oh, okay. If they block down, it's really okay. All right. I'll give you a half a point for that one, Nico. Half a point. Okay, let's get back to where we were. Cut through. Okay. So we have a 0 for 3 on the base, block 2. If you've hit with the dagger, this combat chain gets +1. Go again. So this is kind of like we're in scar for scar territory, obviously, because we have the 0 for 4, but it's conditional. I depend if the deck is all in on the dagger strategy of flicking the dagger and all of those things, then I really, really like this card. I think it is I think it's, I think it's really good. Does it make the list guaranteed? Probably not, but I think it's a solid card. I think that if you're looking for a couple more sources of go again, or you need like more go agains kind of built into your deck list for certain matchups where you have to go faster, I think this is a card that can make it into the sideboard to supplement an aggressive tool. Is kind of how I view this card. It's not a staple in the main deck, more than likely, but solid because it also gets shut down by the D react we're going to shortly talk about as well. Getting hit with the daggers anyway. Now we have what um okay, this card. Okay. So, a couple months ago I mentioned that aggro was dead in Flesh and Blood. Um and it still is. The only difference is they've replaced aggro with what I like to call, from here on out, we'll call it finesse, right? Where it's not just unga bunga 0 for 3, 0 for 4s, but like you have to structure things in a very certain way, and there's like actual play around it instead of just puking out damage, right? Which is something that I think is honestly really good design, because it's not just that 5 problem of can you block slash deal more than 14 a turn or 15, whatever his number is at the moment. And, like that's all the interaction you get. Whereas this, that dagger goes to the graveyard. You can like pass over it and things like that. Now they lose the dagger and they have to come up with new ways to get it, things like that. Like there's cool interactions that you can do with the dagger flicking strategy, that are very interesting. And it's kind of fun to play as well. So it's kind of like really positive on both ends. But this card is busted. I mean, like, absolutely busted. 0 for 4. So this card is nuts if you took out this line, right? You slap this bad boy on a Zephyr Needle, that bitch is coming in for 6. You would have to unmovable the Zephyr Needle to break it. Or 10 foot tall, whatever that card is. Like, that's just wild. Okay. So I don't see it. Um, Basically, if you play this, you are safe from your needle being popped most of the time. Most of the time. Not 100% of the time, but most. So, really, really good card. It's a 0 for 4 go again, always, with nothing but a strict upside with it. Been on this in Assassin super early and was doubled. Yeah, it's just so it's so good. It's so good. So I think that there will be a lot of decks that run this card in tribal. In my opinion, if you have a deck that likes to be mid range, but you need, kind of like how I talked about this one, where you need like an aggressive package to come in, this is going to be one of the best cards to do that for sure. So watch out for. I think this card kind of just reinvents Ira. So very, very interesting card. Um, Pick up the point is another really good card. It's a head jab on the floor, and then when it attack or when this attacks, you retreat. Right. So once again, sorry, I got some stuff in my throat. So this set, if you look at it as a whole, it's the opposite of Bright Lights, right? They basically took Bright Lights and they made every like reprint, right? Like all your mech basics, right? Throttle, 0 to 60, zipper hit, all those cards that had a specific rate line, and they scaled it down for limited purposes, pretty much. Maybe constructed purposes as well, but for sure limited to give Tech Levalson a chance, basically. Um, and this set is basically doing the exact same thing, but going up, which is very interesting, because we're not looking at any cards where it's like, yeah, but like It's not a 0 for 5. Like, there's other 0 for 4s that do other things that are always 0 for 4s. No, it doesn't exist. It does not exist. So, like, we're this is, like, strictly better than head jab, right? Which there's a lot of things that are strictly better than head jab, right? They have a lot of 0 for 3s, but once again, the point is the power level is above the baseline, which is very important to note. Last time we saw that is probably MST, to be honest with you. Poison Blade. If you're doing a lot of dagger stuff, solid. It does cost one, makes it a little weird, depending on the makeup of the deck. But you know, I I think this card would be sick if it was a dagger attack. How sick would that be? Where it's like 3 go again on hit 4, and then you get like extra, right? I think this could have been a dagger attack and like been like fine, but like really cool, really interesting, right? But also I really do like the design of it, how it's like an investment into the dagger synergy later in the turn. So I really like the fact that what they're doing with it basically. Calling and Battle Harden have unmovable as the big promo for side events. What a coincidence. That's such a meme. That's actually hilarious. Um Needle Band would be fine. It's cracked in Zen 2 pre-bans. That's true. My thoughts that are if a deck mainboarding needle something is wrong. Could be true. Could be true. Um mm, Needle isn't a healthy sign, but it's never the problem. That's kind of based. I like that thought process. So overall, I think it's a solid card, but you like have to go all in on it. I think this is probably more of a Syndra card than anybody else. Because you have to go all in on the daggers, and her hero ability kind of forces her to do that. Throw yourself at him. Same stat line as the Poison Blade. But when this attacks a hero, you may have target dagger control deal 1 damage. So it's you'll notice that there's a bunch of different stat lines. Some have retrieve, which get the dagger. Some of them just have basically the flick text, basically. Um, but keep in mind, some of them destroy the dagger, some of them do not. This is a good example, right? Probably why it's a majestic is because it has the flick text if it hits, but it does not destroy the dagger. Most of them say that it does destroy the dagger. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It is pretty important. Lair of the Spider. When this defends an attack with go again, mark the attacking hero. This is a really good card. I mean, in limited, it's a bomb, I think. And also in CC, it's like if your strategy is to mark, this is probably the lowest cost investment, assuming you might have to side it out in some matchups, obviously, because it does require go again. But this like is one of the lowest cost ways to guarantee mark in the set. Um yeah, pain isn't the only destroy for sure. But so some of them do, some of them don't. Just depends. Um so really like this card. You just have to ask yourself how important is marking? Simple as that. And then you start weighing your decisions there. Um Perforate. We have you may attack with the target dagger an additional time. It costs you 1 less to activate this turn. So you basically get refunded on this resource. So it's effectively a trade this card for another card, can attack with a dagger an additional time. Is basically what this card reads in a yellow block 3. I think this one's okay. I've never been a fan of drawing cards halfway through a turn. This is like the extreme version of that, right? Because you basically the only way that you would actually gain value from this is if you have attacked with 2 daggers and you just like how deep are you in that combat chain to know if you actually need the card on the top of your deck or whether it's a complete dud and you're actively swapping this card for it. So I'm gonna keep it 100 and say that I'm not a huge fan of this card. Let's go good old bloodshed. Okay, we have the 0 cost, block 3, assassin warrior, next dagger attack. So we got up sticks and run basically. But it's it's better. It blocks 3. The next time you would hit a marked hero with a dagger this turn, draw a card. So you're basically there's 2 sides of this coin, right? You're giving an on hit to the mark, right? And also, if it's on the dagger that marks the opponent, you can layer it in a way where the mark expires and then you can reapply the mark, right? You just resolve that part last. Um, so this card can just be disgusting in certain spots. And that's a Nathan stream title if I've ever seen one. I mean, come on. What can you do? If your reaction flooded, I guess. But yeah, I just don't see. Um, if it was a blue, I'm all about it. I'm getting what's that warrior card? I'm getting unified decree vibes from this card. That's kind of where we're at with it. But this card's busted. This card's really good. If you're planning on playing one of these classes that specifically utilize dagger, I think it's an auto 3 of. If you have, even if you don't, even if you don't mark, if you just remove that line of text, the card's still good enough. It's a 0 for 4 that blocks 3 with go again. Like, add it to the deck. This will be a staple for any dagger. Let me backtrack a little bit. I almost said any dagger assassin. New probably does not run this card, right? Because you can only play so many reds, and I don't know if this one's quite good enough. I mean, it probably is, but like, it just depends on where the meta is. So, if it's a flick knives kind of assassin, you're gonna run this card 100%, and especially if you're marking. To the point. Target dagger attack is +3 if the defending hero is marked. Instead, gets +4. So it's a 0 for 3. And this is in reactions as well. I think this is very solid, right? This is like Iron Song response. Always at worst. Does block 2. But it has the upside to be a +4, which is a very, very important breakpoint because it denies those plays where, say, you're coming in for 4, they block 3, and you react over it, and then they cover the rest up. They cover the breakpoint up plus this card with a D react. If you go +4, then they have to even block it to really pull that off. So I think this is a solid card. Not in any other color, probably just red if it's played. Are we talking about how busted the new stuff is? Yeah, we just talked about this card. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. To say the least. To say the least. Cut from the same cloth, 0 cost, 2 block, target opposing hero reveals their hand. If an attack reaction card is revealed this way, mark them. Your next dagger attack this turn gets +4. Okay, you notice a theme here where like everything is getting +4. Okay, one thing that I really want to let's take a step back real quick. Okay, I just want to take a little bit of a step back because for somebody just looking on the surface, In the game of Flesh and Blood, 0 for 4s are like you build decks around 0 for 4s. They're like that good. They're that important, right? Especially if they have go again. 0 for 4, just to give you an idea for somebody that maybe isn't super familiar with Fab, to get 0 for 4 go again on an attack, this obviously is an attack, but just any form of 0 for 4 always go again, you have to result to things like Ravenous Rabble, right? And I'll give you an example of what that is, just to show you. And whereas it may not even be 4, right? You reveal the card off the top, and if it's a red, cool, you have a 0 for 4. But if it's yellow, it's a 3. If it's a blue, it only comes in for 2. This is the type of things historically we have resulted to get 0 for 4 go again. Okay, so it's very easy to look at this set and say, oh, it's MST, it's busted, right? But time out. Let's take a step back. Let's analyze it a little bit. The most important part on this card, it's not the cost, it's not the block value, it's not the mark, not even the go again. It is the word dagger. Okay? So you're taking something that is historically slightly below rate, right? Even Kodachi, right, is technically slightly below rate. And what makes Kodachi technically above rate is the inability for the opponent to actually block it out and extract full value, right? If you attack for 1, they block for 3. They only realized 1 of that value of the 3 that they blocked. Pumping daggers is a buff, but it completely removes one of the greatest aspects of being a dagger, and that is being low to the floor and denying your opponent the ability to extract that value. So when you pump a dagger, you are forfeiting that. It's very important to understand, and giving your opponent the ability to extract full value on defense is a downside to these cards, because it's very easy to sit there and say 0 for 4 go again, 0 for 4 go again, 0 for 4 go again. But the important card, dagger, 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 right? Like, we have to understand those things to truly understand the value that they're actually and once again, these cards also force you into pitching cards, which basically means that the heroes are going to have to use more cards to operate. We're not going to be under a wounded bull strategy or anything like that. So therefore they're more susceptible to disruption and things like that. So on the surface, I understand shit looks pushed, right? Like 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, go again, go again, go again. But just take a step back. Trust me. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not I'm not trying to like sugarcoat this shit, but like take a step back and maybe it's not as busted as you think. Okay? Because you are giving up some things. Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Okay, enough talking about that card. Incision. Sick art. Let's get that off the rip. This literally is Iron Song response, but always. But once again, there's that key part where it has to be applied to a dagger, which is very, very, very important. Okay. Solid card. I think this is one of the weaker reactions, to be honest. Doesn't have Draconic for Fang. It doesn't Syndra doesn't really want to play a lot of reactions. And then Assassin, like getting the daggers. I want to keep the daggers low to the ground. The last thing I want to do is pitch for a dagger, play this, and then get blown out by a sync blow. Get absolutely destroyed by a sync blow. Right? I think that you actively want to be flicking the dagger to get your mark instead of pitching for it. And we'll get into that later with my initial analysis of all four of the heroes. Scar Tissue, 0 cost, 2 block, target dagger attack gets +3. When this hits a hero, mark them. A little bit better, obviously, because it blocks 2, and this is all going to depend on how easy it is to mark, right? Uh, if this is going to be one of those resources where I don't have enough resources, whatever. But keep in mind, I'm telling you, these cards, these 0 for 3 reacts that have to go on daggers are going to get destroyed by D reacts. I mean, absolute dookie on by them. So just keep that in mind. Take a stab. Kind of looks like what, stab wound, that card. Target dagger attack gets +3. When this hits a marked hero, you may attack with it an additional time. I don't know. Like, who is swinging daggers that much that's not Syndra? I guess Fang. Fang is probably the only one that would entertain this. Yeah, because none of the assassins are swinging daggers that many times. So this is like a Fang only card, and I'm not even sure it makes the cut, to be honest. Seems like a limited card, probably. Den of the Spider, 0. Reblock. Defense reaction trap. When this defends an attack with greater than its base, mark the attack. So we have, okay. So basically it seems like we have the normal frailty, inertia, blood rot, probably, assuming this is the frailty. It blocks a go again, you mark, and then you have inertia. And I'm assuming there's probably one for reactions or some. Yeah, the reaction one is they lose a life. Yeah, so there's your 3 that coincide with the diseases from Outsider. Now we have this card. This is pretty interesting. This card's kind of good. This card's actually this card's really good. The ability to just pay into this and basically turn a blue. It obviously gets better in certain matchups rather than others. But the fact that this is a defense reaction speed and not just like footsteps where you pay when you block with it is actually wild. So this card, assuming decks like to go wide, this card will be in the meta. Immediately. Immediately this card will be in the meta. And for good, I mean, there's so many things that you can do. You can you don't even have to invest cards, right? What if you're Zen or something or Enigma and you double transcend on your opponent's turn? Get fucked, block 4, right? Or it would have to be Zen because you're making the resources, right? But like Zen with Kasaya, you could double transcend on your turn or your opponent's turn and block 4 for free. Just turn your Kasaya resources into actual value, which is just insane. It's insane. I think the only decks that can't play this are ones that are short on blues. Like that's the only decks can defend a CNC. I mean, there's just so many things that it can do. So I think this card is obviously really good. Is it going to be a staple in every deck? Definitely not. You need to run enough blues to where you can afford to give one out of your hand every turn. So like if you're a ninja that's on like 15 blues, you can't run this card because anytime you draw a blue, it's probably very pivotal to your turn. Therefore, you can't afford it. But if you're like a warrior and you run 21 to 23 blues on a ratio basis, then this gets much more attractive because there'll be a lot of hands where you have double blue or whatever the case may be, and you can actively pay in to these. But obviously, it's going to be a very in-depth sideboard card that goes in and out. But some decks might just decide to save on the slots and just run it main board because it's not the worst card, right? Depending on the class's boot options. I think if you're 20 plus, it's a heavy consideration. I agree. I agree. But just keep in mind it's not an auto include. Like I would not add this to like a ninja with 15 blues, like I said. I think that's a bit of a trap. They're gonna be on snaps anyway, but I'm just saying. Okay, Rotten Remains. 0 cost, blue. 3 block. When this attacks, you may banish a card with 1 attack, aka daggers. Okay. From each hero's graveyard. If you do, this gets +1, repeat the process. So this is a great way to there becomes this dynamic where if you become a Flick Knives deck, that you need anytime you carry over a dagger in the graveyard on your opponent's turn. This card's not the only way. You have gravekeeping. You have a lot of ways that you can reach into that graveyard and remove that dagger. So it creates this very interesting and, in my opinion, fun dynamic where you can end your turn with that dagger in the graveyard, but you're really taking a risk because it could just get banished, right? Whereas if you try to like play your up sticks in like the middle of your turn to where you like flick at that turn and then retrieve it kind of situation, then like it gets a lot you reduce the risk by changing your play pattern. But sometimes you're going to be forced to just throw it in there and hope they don't have it, right? So very interesting play style to say the least. This card. I'm going to give my 110% honest feedback on this card. Everything about this card is amazing. The playability, the strength, the art. But there's one thing that they seriously, and I mean seriously, fucked up on this card. And that's this rarity symbol at the bottom. This being a majestic instantly introduces a $75 card into the game. Mark my words. I've always been an advocate of like, good cards are good cards and like, they should be priced accordingly, yada, yada, yada. But I also want the barrier of entry. Now, yes, you could play Fate Foreseen instead of this, but like if you want to be as competitive as possible, I get it why it's probably a majestic. They could not. I guess you could scale this down. Yellow the next 2 times, blue the next 1 time. But maybe there's some dynamic in limited where basically there was too many D-reacts at that point. Maybe that's why. But I'm gonna be 100% honest. I really don't like the rarity of this card. I really do not like the rarity. Like to the point it bothers me a little bit. But everything else about the card is amazing. Even though historically I've been a generic hater, especially these generic D reacts. The formats, because they've given daggers a lot of power, they've in a very unique way have kind of invalidated that heavy defensive strategy because you're never truly going to, you know, pay for seeing against a dagger. You're hardly ever getting for value. So um I don't know what to say. I don't know what to I don't want to like tell people to just buy it no matter what the price is, but I think if you can find this card for $50 to $60, like it's probably a solid pickup. Once again, I'm not a financial channel. I'm no Stackswell, but this card just seems like I'm not gonna say it's better than Sink Below, but I think in certain metas it will be alongside Sink Below, and there will be some decks that actively choose to run this card over Sink Below in certain metas. So this would be a very impactful card that is a majestic. We have seen that happen before, aka diplomacy. And yeah, this is not going to be a cheap one. So hate to say it. I can 100% guarantee that is the most expensive M in the set. Guaranteed. Will cost more than CNC, probably. But everything else about the card is amazing. Really cool, especially with pirates. Dual threat. When you do the thing, it's really good, and when you don't do the thing, it's a yellow 3 block, 0 cost for Kadachis, right? So like the floor on this card is like kind of the minimum you would expect from constructed cards, but man, when you do it, it feels good, right? So like this card will probably see play. Is it a staple? No, it is not a staple, but like you know, sorry if I missed it, but what do you think of Sink Below that became an M? Is that good for the game? I just went over it. I love everything about this card except the rarity. I hate the rarity. Um, this card being a majestic is going to create a lot of not so favorable situations, I think, for players. So it'll make pre-release really excited when you open one. But other than that, eh, and people will counter argument, say, "Oh, just play Fate for Scene instead of Shelter." When that's not, they're not the same card. I know they're 0 for 4 D reacts, but this has a whole separate purpose. You can't compare block 3 breakpoints to opt 1. Like like those are two different things. Those are two different things. So I absolutely hate that this is a majestic, and I believe it should have been a rare. I'm assuming it's not a rare because they could not afford that many D reacts in the limited format. That's my assumption. 0 for 4 when this hits a hero, mark them. It seems like a limited card, to be honest. I think there's more efficient, better ways to be marketing. Seems very limited. Pursuit of the Pits of Despair when it's the same thing. No different. Sound the alarm. Or if you're Vero, share the decklet. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. This card is one of the coolest cards. Like, it's insane. And I want to see somebody cosplay this and like wear like a tuba to play their games in the calling or something. That shit would have me crying. Every time they play it, they just hit it real quick. That shit would have me crying. Let me get caught up in chat. Is Vin set S tier chat? We're gonna find out on Friday. We have Volcor 2. We get a new generic L. That's a stable coincidence. I think not. Good point. It said as low A, high B. That could be accurate. skill issue. Oh, okay. So sound the alarm barrel edit. That shit had me funny. That shit had me dying. It was so funny. So this card is insane, especially in like anything that has like an Ira curve or anything. The fact this could block two. I think they were being extremely generous when they plugged a three down there at the bottom right corner. I think this card is solid if it blocks two, and this is just better. So like once again, if you have a curve where you're playing a lot of 1 for 5s, kind of like an Ira kind of situation, it's very straight up, right? But this could be kind of like that grave keeping kind of card where it comes if assassin starts to dominate the meta, you bring it in, right? Something along those lines. Um, Definitely not a staple for any deck. I would not be playing warrior and just throwing this in there or things like that. It has its use, but be careful with it. But it'll definitely be a role player in the meta, just in very few certain types of decks. Okay. We already talked about this one. Relentless Pursuit. 0/3 blue. Just mark the opponent. Why not? If you've attacked them this turn, put this on the bottom of its owner deck so it doesn't actually use the card. But that implies you had to have go again, which is pretty easy to do. But it does require you to break the chain, which could be impactful, could not. I would say that if you're desperate for marking in constructed, this could be a way to do it. But using an entire card to do nothing but mark, even if it it's kind of mid. I didn't go over Razor Reflex. It's all right. It's all right. Tip off. 1 for 5 stat line. Bingo minus a block. Instant discard this. Once again, we have to be doing more. Like these reacts, block 3 and mark them, right? We have for assassin, you have all these cards that like flick the knife and it counts as hitting marks, right? So you're getting damage and a mark as an additional benefit to a already statted card. These cards are just all they do is mark. This is a limited ass card, is what this is. 0 for 3, go again. We got a little fry action, but it doesn't block at all. We cannot even put it defensively on the combat chain. If you are marked, you can't play this. If the defending hero is marked, this is what I'm talking about. To get 0 for 4, always go again. This is how bad they have to make the card. This is what I'm talking about. They have to put literally like 14 restrictions on it, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Not complaining. Just is what it is. Okay. Lay low. We already talked about that one. We already talked about expose. Put in context. 0 blue 3 can only be defended by 3. This is limited. I would rather have like any 3 blue block that had text on it. Target attack with 3 or less base gets +1. Yeah, limited card. Limited card. Unless you're a deck that goes low to the ground, because this says attack. So if there's a deck that like goes really low to the ground, but actively has situations where I'm thinking like where your blues aren't super impactful, but if you don't have go again, like how many times as a 5 player have you like burned snaps on a Blaze Headlong because you didn't have a starter that was red? This is a card that like you never want to play it, but if you don't have a lot of contention for your blue base and like that's very important and you can't misstep on those things, I think it's okay. Like this may see play in very, very minute ways, but I could see it probably not. It's like an upgraded blue captain's call kind of situation because it blocks 3. Public bounty. Once again, we thought this card was going to be really good. Turns out, just flick the knife to mark him either. Anyway, so kind of a limited card in retrospect, which is why it's very important to let the whole set release because we said this was busted. Right? This is nimblism with an upside, right? It, I think it's okay. I think Fang is probably the only hero that actively wants to be playing this, and I don't even think he does because there's way more cards to mark. Okay. I think the rest of them we talked about. Let me see. We did not talk about null time zone mechanologist item. 0 cost blue, no block, of course. Crank. This enters the arena with 2 steam counters at the start of your turn. Destroy this unless you remove a steam. Yep, standard text. When this enters the arena, name a card. The named card can't be pitched or played from hand. From hand, while this card is in the arena. So you never double brick somebody by the only thing that you can double brick is chi. Because let's say you didn't want to get CNC'd for whatever reason. You can name CNC, they move it into Arsenal, play it the next turn, right? Whereas Chi is the only thing that you can like double brick both turns. So it seems okay. It seems like it's a tech card. It's not like a main board by any means, but maybe very niche, very niche. So be careful. Okay, we got some mech equipment instant. Block 1. Destroy this. Prevent the next 1 arcane damage would be dealt to you this turn. If you boosted this turn, instead prevent 2. I'm always a fan of thing, especially mech arm slot. Not a whole lot of contention there, right? So I'm a huge fan of anything that is block and has pseudo spell void in it. I think it's just got so much upside. It's so very little opportunity cost to where I really like those types of cards. And that pretty much goes over all of it. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the heroes. Now that we've identified a lot of the role players and the cards that we're actively going to be leaning on these heroes. And let's kind of just talk about Slippy first, which is going to be Arachne Slip Through the Cracks. Okay, let me get caught up in chat. Trying along with Vipox. Trust. Yeah. Random thing, but I'm excited for Zen and Viscerai LLing. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are. When they do. When they do. Okay. So let's talk about Slippy. Keep in mind that this says the first attack with stealth each turn, not your turn, includes your opponent's turn. So if you play against another assassin, you are actively giving them an advantage. Period. You are actively giving them a buff. So is their deck construction going to allow them to utilize the hero ability in the same way you do and leverage it to the same value? Absolutely not. But it sucks, okay? Just is what it is, right? So obviously you start a little bit less life, but the one thing that I've noticed with this hero is you do not active unless the card has really good rate and has a byproduct of marking your opponent. 99% of the time, what you should be accomplishing with that hero is marking them via the dagger, but not necessarily pitching for the dagger, right? And the idea for that is you there's so many cards that allow you to flick the knife, right? And basically just get the on hit no matter what, unless they have some type of crazy prevention, whatever the case may be. Which is the cheapest way to achieve mark, right? And then you have retrieval to get it back, things like that. I do not think you should go heavy on retrieval in slipping. You probably do a little bit, kind of bake it in there, but nothing crazy. The one thing that I can say for certain is if you are marking, unless it's a card that just does it, right? Like what's a good example? Let's see. What's a good example? What just marks them? Uh like the reacts. Um where did you go? Where did you go? Where did you go? I don't know where it went. The 0 for 3, if it blocks go again, mark them. Something like that. Where you can extract an actual rate of a card and get the mark as a bonus. Cool. You take it. Um have you seen the Upsticks Zephyr Iris? I have. I have seen that. Did you explain anything lore wise about no. I I am the worst lore person in the world. I don't know any of it. It's kind of funny that slipping through the cracks is how Arachne got out of solitary confinement. That's kind of cool. Biggest disappointment with the set is the clear lack of the Chaos talent cards. Does that mean the next set could promote it heavily? Maybe, but for the hunted, it's a I think it's a limited balance equation. Um, I think that's the main motivator. You just don't need that many chaos cards. Um, but it's something that they can definitely dabble into, right? Um, but it is a little odd. I'll give you that. It's a little odd. Also, what's the deal with the draconic this set? Where's my red matters theme? That's a good point. It completely shifted on its head where it just doesn't care about reds. Like some cards do, but like hardly any. Can you brand with Cinderclaw a devotion never dies and infinitely keep on attacking it if you never block it? Devotion never dies. Is that you're asking? No, the second time you would play it, it would not be draconic. You would be able to play it as many times as you wanted, as long as you were able to weave a brand in, if that makes sense. The second it leaves the combat chain, it does not remember it was draconic after the trigger happens. So you would have to weave in brand with Cinder Claws if you wanted to do it that way. Of course, of course. So like I was saying with the assassins, marking 90% of it through Slippy is going to be using the dagger, but not paying for it. Sometimes you'll swing it just because you have an extra card, you got some tempo, whatever. But flicking the dagger is the main way you're going to be marking the opponent most of the time. Okay. This card is nuts. Holy shit. What's up, DM? Good to see you. Good to see you. But yeah, that's also as far as slippy ratios are concerned. The main thing that I've came across is obviously you want to be at about, because your first stealth card gets to go again. I've found that the number that I like is about 33 uh attack actions minimum, and about 20 of those need to be stealth. Is kind of the realm that I'm in. That's a good ratio to make sure you have one stealth card every turn and a way to truly leverage the go again. One thing that I learned from Taylor today is that one of his biggest weaknesses is going to be he's one of the he's different than other assassins because he really wants to keep his hand. He actively just wants to push your shit in. Whereas a lot of the other assassins, new kind of operates that way depending on how the deck's built. But Slippy just really wants to be the aggressor as far as assassins go. Whereas, Azuri doesn't mind being a little defensive now and again, D reacts. Like, I would run bare minimum D reacts in Slippy as an example. We love reading cards. Da-da-da. Tarantula doing 3 damage with an equipment activation sounds so broken. It ain't even top 5 of the set list. Yeah, I mean, this card over here is my favorite in the set. Has to be. Card is insane. Up sticks and run. I mean, just holy cow. And the art, man, it's like your average day in London, trying to stab you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can't wait for the Pro Tour. Can't wait for the Pro Tour. But this card is just insane, right? Really versatile, 0 for 4 with just an upside. I mean, it's just insane. So, Slippy, we went over ratios. I think heavy blues in Slippy is a trap. I think the lower keep the cost curve down. Not London. London residents in shambles. I had to get him. I had to get him real quick. Like to keep Jason on his toes. I hope I don't go to London and people are mad at me for making that joke. But I had to. It was low hanging fruit. It was low hanging fruit. Oh man. Okay. Like I was saying, blues, low count, keep the cost curve close to 0, kind of head jab kind of vibes with it. 0 cost reacts as many as you can, and go from there. You'll have some blues because there's some really low opportunity blues like surgical extraction, things like that. Also the blue one that we went over in Assassin, where is it? No, it was a split card. Throw dagger or whatever it was, like that. It's just a low opportunity cost blue that's pretty decent, right? Throw dagger, that's the one. These seem like really good blues to just throw in, low cost, and have somewhere between 10 to 15 is kind of where I'm looking at in my initial analysis for Slippy. And yeah, you kind of want to decide. Obviously, you're going to have some auto includes like Kiss of Death and things like that, but you really just want to decide how much you're going into flick knives, right? The more you're doing that, the more retrieval you want, and that's a balancing act that you have to do. I can't give you a straight answer of uh 10.3 retrieval is the optimum number. I can't do that, right? Because I need to know how far you're leaning into that strategy before I can tell you an optimal ratio. Um, so that's kind of where I'm leaning at with Slippy. Overall, I think he's a good hero. Is he broken? No, I don't think he is, contrary to popular belief. But I think he does some powerful things. But if you he's an assassin that's very susceptible to disruption, which is not common. It's kind of against what we know, right? So, what time is it? We're only an hour in, and we're kind of we probably got like yeah, we'll get some Zen games in at the end for sure. Um, are we doing a set review or something else going on? So the current plan is we're gonna play some Dagger Zen games, approximately 20 minutes from now, right after this. Right after we get done talking, we're just gonna go down the heroes and just give you my brief idea on the heroes, and we're already one done. So, but then we're gonna play some Dagger Zen. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Mario. Now, Mario, I know a little less about, so I'm not speaking in full confidence, right? But uh, I think also you'll see a theme here. The optimal way to mark the opponent is flicking the dagger. However, for him, it's a little bit trickier, right? Because cards like Kiss of Death get drastically worse if it does not have Go Again, because you need it to not be on the active chain link before you have the ability to flick it. Although he can get Go Again, just you have to have. You're basically taking a Slippy deck, removing some of the stealth cards and putting in more secure ways to mark your opponent. And I think that would be um a solid basis for Mario. And one thing that you have to keep in mind is that generics are going to have a higher opportunity cost in Mario rather than Slippy. And the thought process is all the agents of chaos just say you discard target assassin card, right? So therefore, if you run CNC or something like that, it if you don't have Go Again, you cannot leverage that card if you are an agent of chaos, right? Unless you have a way to mold it into the turn some other way, right? But it'd be very hard to fit in some scenarios. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, it's going to be you're going to run the good stuff, codex, leave no witnesses, surgical extraction, things like that. But also a good stealth basis because you do want to operate on the hero ability, right? 0 for 4, Go Again. We take those. So far, this one and this one have just been overperformers in both the list because they're on hit, you know, on hit extra disruption, which is exactly what you want to be doing as you're trying to punch them in the face. Um, Other than that, obviously Mask is going to be way better in this one because the deck is going to be built in a way to support all of these different agents. Um, yeah, there's not much else to say about the difference between Mario and Slippy. I think they're similar. You're just trading a little bit of the attacks to and maybe also Slippy might be on 33 attacks and maybe 20 reacts, something like that, maybe a little bit less, to fit in some non-attacks like Codex, stuff like that. Uh, and whereas Mario would probably pull a little bit from both because all the agents allow most of the agents allow the card to become a react, so you don't need to run as many. So I would probably take maybe five to eight attacks off to go down to a 25 ratio up to a or maybe less from the attacks. I like staying at around 30 and then just trim some of the reactions into other cards that support marking to actively support that strategy, but can still be used as reactions if you need to. I honestly do not see a reason to play Marionette instead of Slippy for the mirror match. That's the reason to play it. Um, Mario into Slippy is like the easiest shit on the planet because all your shit has to go for free. Because Slippy's effect applies to both sides of the table. Yeah. Slippy is has the higher floor on average. The problem is he is going to be drastically weaker into every other assassin. Like astronomically weaker because the hero ability gives both sides of the table go again. But you're right. From the basis, it does seem that Slippy is a little bit stronger than Mario on the surface. Mario is also the harder one to figure out. It's very easy to build a deck around, oh, first attack gains go again. That's pretty easy, right? So it may take some time for Mario, but from my initial analysis, I do agree with that statement. Slippy is better. However, you give up a lot of percentage points in the assassin matchup. So therefore, if you're expecting a lot of assassin, that's not Slippy. In the meta, Mario could be the better pick. So let's go ahead and move to Fang. Okay, we already talked about Fang. Fang's a weird one. I wasn't able to catch Josh's stream yesterday. I was tied up. But it seems like Fang wants to go, to be honest. This hero and this hero, I think are the same fucking thing. Like literally. I think that these heroes are identical. They have a quest on their card. Get 3 fealty tokens, you get this buff, right? And then this says get so many earth cards in your banish zone, you get this buff. The difference is, here's the difference. Once this happens, you're done. There's no, it doesn't die, it doesn't ever turn off, whatever. But the trade off is this can happen faster. Okay. There's also another trade off. He doesn't run any no blocks. He runs some no blocks. So they have the same idea. Fang can get online quicker, but it can fall off. He can become not online. And he runs no blocks at the expense of being able to do that. So it's Fang's condition is 20 times easier to proc than Florian. Nico, I do agree that it's easier. However, let me present a question. When people are in 3 months, when people are familiar with this hero, will it still be as easy? And I beg the question that it won't be. I think if you load up a Fang deck, I think you're going to get people not knowing the attack pattern and how to block is leading to a false just comfort of getting online very quickly. But once that changes, once the mold shifts and people understand the play patterns, we're talking typical warrior stuff, right? Whereas like against unknown players that are unknowingly playing against it, they do really well. And so whatever you're experiencing um currently is, I expect it to be heavily delayed in the future when people understand and recognize the patterns. Um so just keep that in the back of your mind. But I, there's so many different things with this hero that I haven't been able to truly narrow down what truly works. Unfortunately, I wish I could bring you something a little bit more concrete, but there's so many different ways that you could build this hyper defensive deck that just tries to lose the least amount of value as possible to get online and then extract, extend the game out to extract more value and make those high value free swing plays, things like that. Because once you are turned on, like, you get some really high value plays because those 0 for 4s are truly 0 for 4s because you're not forced into pitching. So you can block, 9 or 10 and then send like one card sixes and shit like that. So it's actually really, really good. But the problem is, how much value do you give up getting to that point? Do you actually extract enough to make it work? And that's why my analysis on Fang currently sits at, the faster the meta is, the worse this hero is. And it has everything to do with the runway of where the hero has the ability to make up that margin, if you will. Don't ask me questions. I have no answers. Only wild takes in chat. Streamer is the voice of reason. I appreciate it. After a lot of Fang testing, you end up focusing on unconditional filtering generation. The problem is, I don't think it's enough versus the top decks. Exactly. Exactly. Um, that's his job. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. After a lot of Fang tests, yeah, the daggers are for most of the time, especially if they're marking the one reacts are super inconsistent, but might be necessary. Yeah. Um, no, I agree. But just, I once again beg the question of how much value are you giving up getting to that point to where you're making the crazy plays? Um, which is very, very important to keep in your calculations. I've been building verdants, and the meta seems like it's just gonna get worse for my deck. Uh, I would love to bring you comfort, but I think you're right. I think the meta is going to speed up, not slow down, which is not what Verdance wants. She wants time to see those key cards, especially when they keep printing legendary one ofs, and that's just how the cookie crumbles temporarily. But sometimes all it takes is a certain set to come out and things change, right? We were just in a very mid range soup kind of blocky meta, and I think we're going to speed up a little bit. So maybe it gets tailored back the next set. You never know. Here in locals, people are giving up on AB. So I'm abusing Millennium Tree and bursting. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Find your out. At least Verdance is cool, though. Got a point. Got a point. So like I said, I wish I could bring more for Fang, but there's so many different ways that you can take this deck, and I haven't seen one, in my defense, or in Fang's defense. I haven't really looked. Okay, I have a confession to make. Today was the first time since the release of PoE2 that I have not logged into the game. Okay, so maybe this is showing I did a little less homework than I should have. Okay, I will admit, I will confess. But we're zooming in. We're back. We're focused. Um, yeah, I just don't have anything more for Fang. I wish I had more for you. I will definitely have more for the tier list because I'm gonna have to adequately know what he's trying to do before I actively place him on a tier list. So we will see where that lands next week. Next week is the tier list. Let's talk about Syndra. Okay. I think Syndra does something that's very it's strong, okay, but poor Max. I have a local who is such a huge fan. Yeah, I feel bad for Max players. They keep getting destroyed. It seems great to me. Just Assassin and Ira are so bonkers right now. I mean, unfortunately, that's the problem with card games, right? It's not about being good, it's about being relatively good. And if everything is a mile above you, then that's just how it is. I demand a tier list now. Can we start a poll? No. No. I'm just not ready, truth be told. But I do want to hurry so I can get into these Zen games because I think some people wanted to see that. So I'm just going to spend a second talking about Syndra. I think she does something that's powerful. I think you can kind of lean on some of the tools to really be aggressive. The problem is, I think we're going into a meta where Assassin's going to have a very, you know, it's kind of like the way I look at Syndra is take Phi and increase the ceiling, but remove the ability to have good 2-card, 3-card hands. Right? Like if Syndra and Phi were to trade back and forth 5-card hands, I think Syndra has more output 90% of the time. However, she blocks worse. She uh she like literally does not want to block. Whereas Phi, it's like, okay, I'll block with this and not throw another head jab at you, right? Whereas her, if she gives up 2 cards out of her hand, it can literally be crippling. So I think she's the highest ceiling ninja, but very, very susceptible to disruption, even way more than Aurora. So with all her no blocks. So uh she does a thing. If you want to be as explosive as possible, this is the hero for you. I also do not have, ratios and things like that. I haven't done as much work as I have on the or seen as much on Syndra as the other ones. Uh I You obviously are going all in on flick knives or the cards that flick the knives because you have to get them in the graveyard and you have to be careful to break the chains so they are in the graveyard so you can recoup them. Just once again, there are cards that remove things from your graveyard, so be very, very mindful and understand. Have a plan with Syndrome where if you play against somebody that can run the generic card that we saw, this one, if it's a deck that would run this, Gravekeeping or Passover, me personally, I need to develop a plan with the deck that does not carry over daggers in the graveyard. That may be very difficult, may even be impossible, but it's the main priority that I'm going to be taking when playing this deck. So just keep that in mind. Du-du-du-du. Poison daggers. Yep, that's a good card to build around in Syndra, obviously, because the it's hard to block once. It's hard to block once. Okay. So I think we're just gonna hop straight into the Zen games because it's been a long time since we've done some gameplay on the stream. So I think we're just gonna hop in. But if anybody has any questions about the set, any of the heroes in the set that they want answered, throw them in chat right now. I'd love to answer them. Feel free. And we're gonna play some Tower Share games. This deck was built by the better Crawford, aka not me. Let's go. I don't like making. I don't like making decks in or making games in while I'm streaming. That's how you get stream sniped. Okay, let's do this match. Is Ira overhyped, and how does Aurora consistently beat Zen? I got some bad news for you. Against Fang, I kind of just want to punch his face in, to be honest. Do we have enough retrievals? The question we got 9. I don't think that's enough for. I think against Fang we go 1-1. Or do you? I feel like they just want to be defensive. Oh, they disconnected. Son of a gun. He did DC. Rip. Okay, let's do some assassin. Take some assassin. Okay. And disconnected. Really? Does nobody want to play against Zen? Is that the problem? Ripperoni. I'll play some Vinny. Oh, brother. Oh shit. That's classic constructor. I need to be an other. My bad. My bad, chat. Been a while since I've been on the old tally. Are you gonna leave? Please don't leave. Levias sucks. Oh. Okay, I just gotta think. We like the reacts, but maybe against assassin that's not aggro, we go here and then put in the reacts, but because we're running Kodachis, we don't need the retrieval. Let's do that. See what happens. See what happens. Is that a Betsy? All right, we got a good old dagger. Okay, loaded up 60 cards. Doesn't necessarily mean anything. We have flick knives. We definitely have to block this 100%. Question is what then? I meant to block, but too late now. Sure. You got me. Double marked. Okay. So for this hand, we obviously want to play the wind chakra. We don't have an active way to turn on chase the tail. I don't think. Well, actually, yeah. What we can do is we can wind chakra, play chase the tail, path will travel, go get aspect, boom, boom. But we don't get the combo here, so that doesn't make any sense. Is there any way that we can get dual threat? I don't know if there is. I really just want to transcend. It's priority number one. Let's go with that line just off the. Wow, what a trap. Okay. What can we get that costs more? Because we can't Kadachi now. Wow. That's it. That's really good. So let's go ahead and Zen. On the bin, what can we get? Do we need to turn on Shuko, right? So it's actually breed anger because it would be tiger, breed tiger to split it all up. Which gives us the Shuko trigger and gets a one cost out of the deck. Breed anger seems optimal here. So then we play the crouching. Oh, you're right, Kevin. I should have done it on the Dachi. And that way I could have actually, yeah, path. So I pitched that, make that. That means I could then go chase the tail aspect. You're 100% right. I fucked that line up. This line is drastically worse than that. Yeah, it should have been Wind Chakra, Kadachi, Pathful Traveled. Then you go, yeah, yeah. Then you go Tiger from Zen, chase the tail aspect, Tiger. That's the line that we did not do. Okay, live and learn. Okay, so here we have an easy way. We have a very quick chase the tail. If we wanted to, so when this hits a hero, so if this, so this removing the mark doesn't matter because it's going to remark because it's going to just hit us with a dagger. Which means I kind of want to block it, for being honest. So that's what we're going to do. Wither. You got trap door. Wait, no, no, no. I want the card. Too fast. Basically extracting the chi here to get a cheap chase the tail is the idea. Obviously gonna mark us here. That's fine. Get a resource. Cool. You got it. Sure. Got it. Take a frailty. It is worth two in this situation, which is pretty good. I'm getting absolutely bullied by these frailty tokens. It's 2 value off of them because I can't Kadachi. So what we're gonna do, make sure my line's right. We're gonna go get aspect, basically do the line that we were gonna do before. Zen for aspect, and then go, yep, tiger chase tail, which means we need to lead with 100 wins. And then we're gonna go get it. Go get the aspect. That frailty is super good. It's supposed to Kadachi, but no. This is our second tiger for chase the tail activation, which also will trigger Shuko. Was there for 4. Get ahead on the life total. Hopefully not get another fucking frailty. Okay. This hand is kind of doo-doo. Not gonna lie. So we is gonna be blocking. Persuasive. I mean, they definitely, with 2 cards in hand, they have just a Nick. Like, actually. Let's snap into a codex, but it has to be that along with just a Nick. Yeah, unfortunately, what we have to do is we know this is gonna hit. So we block 1 card to minimize the damage and force the card out. And then if they take the blue, we just Arsenal pass. If they take the red, we Kodachi. So it leaves us a line no matter what happens. But we're going to get hit by this, of course. Sure. I really don't want to jam armor here. Like, really don't. And also, we could just Arsenal this as well. Um, could also banish his dagger, which I kind of want to do that when he plays a retrieval card. I want to do this in response. We're actually going to Arsenal this instead of Kadashi and try to get him on that. Although he's going to kind of see it coming. I'll let him get the mark. And I'll just Arsenal this and pass. And then there we go. Okay, we got the transcend. So we can actively do that play. Okay, he did not pay for retrieval. Whether we don't care about. +3 go again. So that means 1 to follow. have to actually think of this line. So we're gonna triple transcend, but I don't think we want to gain the resources so we can actually get all levels on levels. So we let me do sorry thinking. So on our turn, we pass over in homage, double transcend. Okay. And then we play levels, pitching card. Pitch the other chi in our hand to then play sacred art. Then when this transcends, we activate Zen. Okay. So because everything gains chi or cost once levels is played, so we can gain a resource off of this, which gives us two. I don't think it matters. He had full tempo, doesn't necessarily mean he has a react. Could block this, but Tiger Swipe seems too good on a Sacred Art, so we're just gonna like let him have it, and he'll get the Kadachi value, obviously. Tarantula, sure. I was getting a frailty anyway. Kind of worked out. Is there anything that is catastrophic that we do not want him to get? And the answer to that question is we cannot. Actually, prognosis is not that bad because we just jam Shuko, right? And we actively do not want to discard where we currently don't have to, and we all have double frailty. So I think we just let him grab, right? Because he has no cards. What's the worst he can grab? Is prognosis, which forces the Shuko. Sure, you got me. Or could Kasaya. Probably give Kasaya to be honest. Um yeah, you got it. Yep. And here we give Kasaya like we mentioned, which means we're not going to gain the resources, but we didn't need the resources anyway because we can't Gadachi because we have two frailty tokens. So not really important here. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass over targeting the glaive in response homage. It's gonna be a double transcend. Then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and Jade Tiger, get that transcend. And then we'll go ahead and play levels, pitching this in response Zen, getting a chase the tail for sure, because that's gonna be easy to play. And then we'll resolve all modes on the levels because MST is fair and balanced. Okay. So he just turned into an orb weaver because I was not marked. Sure. Yeah, got me. So now we get to go Tiger. Into chase the tail. Into aspect. into tiger, into tiger, into tiger, hot boots, into tiger, and force blocks. Because if you don't block this, you die. Which means, and I don't hate getting either one of these pieces of equipment. So we instantly stole tempo. Our frailties are gone. They're running out of ways to make frailty. Dachis are starting to look a little better. These Kadachis have been useless the whole game. Been frailty after frailty. Oh, you gave me a card. Cool. You want to mark me? You can mark me. Why not? The value. Just saw needles in. It was very interesting. Yeah, this list has needles, just not in this matchup. Maybe it should be. I don't know. Taylor literally just sent me this list 30 minutes ago or 30 minutes before the stream started. So I don't really know what I'm doing right now, but we're figuring it out on the way. When you got a wax on, but no wax off. It's the worst, Nico. It's the worst. But it's pretty good in that spot, I'll tell you that much. We'll go 1. We go 4. And then if they take it, we send it. Oh, rip. So we have not played a 0, so this doesn't get I think we hold it. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we hold it. Are you swapping it? No? Cool. Okay. He went and got a trap, which is very likely to be frailty trap, which means if it is frailty trap, we need to lead with the one from Arsenal first. Very important. This is a dagger retrievals in list, so all the cards say, or some of the cards say dagger on them, so you have to run Kadachi or Zephyr Needle, which this list has both. That's why you don't run the Kakura. You gonna play Frailty? Oh, yep. I called it, which means he only gets 1 block, and then we're gonna play this one from hand. Leak some damage in Arsenal. Hell yeah. Prognosis with a full grip. Okay. So this is gonna hit. So we have to structure our hand in a way to where it can't be disrupted, basically. Which means they could take either one of the blues, either one of the reds, and we're fine because it could be. Oh, we're fine no matter. We can actually block a red here because if we block pouncing, then if he takes our red card, we Kadachi levels, right? And then if he takes the blue, then we Kadachi 100 wins, whatever, and we're still fine. So we can actually afford to block to force the decision. Sure. Yeah, you got it. Let me get that hand. What that hand do? What that hand do? And from this point, I think we just once we actually take tempo, yeah, they knew the same thing. Once we actually acquire tempo, we just grind them out with the Kadachis, because it would have been full block there, and then one, and then five more, which basically gets the entire hand, and you just whittle them down with Kadachis until either they die or fatigue, either one. So we drastically messed up that first line, like astronomically messed up that first turn, but we got back in there. We had a good line with the J Tiger domain. Um, Worked out pretty well. So we'll keep going and see if we can find us another one. We can do an Ira game. Hmm. I just don't know if we have quite enough retrieval to justify. They're going super aggro nowadays, though. Definitely don't want the D reacts. We're definitely running these. I just don't know if do we really want to be trying to take cards from Ira is the question. And I think the answer is probably one of each. They're on double Zephyr. Okay. This hand kind of good. This hand kind of good. We definitely just pass though, unfortunately. Because if they do draw any reacts, we just want them to like have them in the hand. Pitching a retrieval means that this is probably a trap to break it because they're going to have another retrieval to just get it back. Although we do tax them a resource, which could be actually relevant here. So me breaking this is actually on the basis of costing them the resource, not breaking the needle because I think they're going to get it back. Is the thought process. I don't know what that window was. Holy shit. Or he's gonna flick it anyway. Anyway, either one of those. Yeah. Also, to get mass trigger, it forces them to go another chain link quad, which could matter. Okay. We'll do it that way. Okay, so how are we doing this? That'd be 2 for the Gadachis or Zephyr. Sure. Okay. Aim for the flick. Most broken card? I mean, I think it's got to be up sticks and run. Be close, right? The fact that it's just a rare seems pretty good. Yep. Bro, if it's another CNC, bro. Holy shit. I'm going to lose it. Really? Really, bro? Chase the tail, kind of important. A little bit. Without CNC, we are losing our need to. This is actually kind of tough. Oh, we have to do it that way. Those are 2 really good CNCs. Like, really good. We're going to go pouncing. Then we're going to double. Then we're going to go Zen and get our normal 2-step that we're trying to do. My fiends are going crazy over this Dagger Ira deck. Yeah, it's good. It is good. I think Zen is the better deck at doing it though. Because the way that my mind works, and I could be wrong, but if you had the option to have your blues actually do stuff, right? Search cards, traverse, all of that. Would you trade that to have Flick Flack better or to get +1 every turn? I think that that package outweighs it. I could be wrong. That's just kinda like where my brain works or where my brain's going. Let me go ahead and send it. We haven't seen any of the upsticks and runs, so we'll probably draw them next turn. So we'll try to get a card here. We'll take it. Get us a little bit more tempo and probably be able to equip it back next turn. Yep, there we go. See, easy as 1, 2, 3. You can't see and see me this time. What are you actively trying to do? Stop the mash trigger. Pulse curve kind of wonky here if you pocket pass. Uh it is, but I think we also have to factor in the fact that we're drawing a card off levels, right? I think that kind of fixes it. But I do agree on the surface is a little sus. So what we'll do first, yeah, the problem is we have to search something. We can chase the tail if we give up the CNC, which I think we just do because they don't have an arsenal. So what we do, so the line now becomes go get chase the tail. Let's make sure we have one. We do. So it's go get chase the tail. We'll pop boots to supply the second thing, depending on what we draw. So it's 1, 1, and then we'll go 1 on the Kodachi to get value. We will not retrieve, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and do that. Go here, there. 'Cause we just need to push damage. We have to push. And then we're going to go again and draw. And if it's blue, then we retrieve and throw the CNC just for damage, which I would like a blue here. We got a blue. And then we throw the Zephyr Needle for value. So it's coming in for a hot 6. Sure. I wanted to save the Passover for the needle, but like w- I can't hold that and like we're past that point. I have to get his cards. I don't think I win by Passovering a needle at this point in the game. Turn 2 or 3, maybe, but I think we're too late. So here we definitely go. We just go ahead and do it. We are buying a lot of tempo here. If we can draw a chi, I think we're in a decent spot. We got us a stream sniper. How do you unload 3D reacts before seeing the last? I don't know. Might have us a sniper. Unload all of them D reacts before the CNC came out. One of them. Okay. Needle for 2. Okay, so here what we can do is we can blue transcend. Okay, which means we don't have a resource. We have a resource problem if we do that line because then, oh, hmm. I think maybe we actually save it. Go ahead and throw it. Oh, okay, sure. Yep. With them having full armor, I think they just get this. They have to like attack me with blues for me to still be in it. I'm pretty sure. What would we get with the chi? Be any zero cost, could just tiger swipe or whatever. So we could block down. We get absolutely bamboozled by the last CNC. If it's CNC, we just lose anyway. But we have to stay out of flick range as well. Actually, we need to play around the 0 for 3 on hit, deal damage, right? So I think we give Shuko here. Maybe the resource is important. Can we let him draw? Double strike twice. They could have blocked with that card, which means it has to be offensive in nature. You never arsenal a D react. What would be the worst? Which means we have to save blocks. I really think it's that 0 for 3 if it hits like a dagger. I think we have to save the blocks for this card, which means we need them to draw a dud. Is our only out? Because if we give up that card and have to block the next one, yeah, it's just. I don't think there's anything we can do there. With that cost curve, I really don't think he ripped it. The one thing that I think this list needs work on is I find myself scared to use the weapons. Could just be me, could not be the list. Um, willing to admit that. Decent blocking hand, no real. Okay, we're just dead. I think we just get grinded out here. Oh, we just get flicked. Yeah. GG. Um. So on that one, got here right now. Maybe you already talked about it, but do you think Iron needs any ban? Let's talk about that. I said earlier that I was going to mention should anything be banned, things like that. So let me get caught up in chat. Gotta save pass. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Do you think going first is a death sentence a majority of the time now? I don't know. There. The thing about the ninja decks is there's so many ways that you can force through damage on turn 0 that it's one of those situations where like it's contextual in the hand, to be honest. So I don't know if there's a actual like straightforward answer, but does Iron need any ban? It's interesting, right? Because there's not what's gonna happen? This is the way I'm envisioning in my head right now. Currently, people are being exposed to the deck, and people are gonna start coming up with solutions. Okay. And this is gonna be in the form of basically, you know, grave keeping, whatever tool you're gonna utilize to remove their dagger from the graveyard. And what we're very quickly going to realize is that a difference in play patterning is going to counter that. Okay. Um and it's it's one of those situations where there's not a lot out there that totally counters the deck. I mean, when you have to have an unmovable to break the needle, half the time they want you to break the needle either way because they have every intention to flick it is mm, it's not an ideal situation. It's very interesting. And maybe Zephyr Needle, like Noah mentioned in chat, maybe Needles is a temporary fix, right? Like what really makes Needles broken? It's is it that they don't have to run the 0 cost to give it go again, or is it the one extra rate on the attack? And I, is Zephyr's really that big of a problem? I, if you replace Zephyr Needles with Kodachis, is it that different? Like, sure, you lose. I think I this might be a hot take, probably not a hot take, but I think CYB is the worst it's ever been right now. You cannot fatigue these low to the ground decks. They're just going to chew you up. Um, if you have that in your deck, I highly, highly recommend you take it out. But I don't know. I don't know if Needles like fundamentally changes anything. Of course. Does it? Needles being +1 over the course of a long game. The Ira wants to play, but that's the thing. Ira no longer wants to play a long game. I don't agree with that statement. I think from this set, Ira went from a 9-turn hero to a 5 to 6-turn hero. Now, +1 over, you know, I guess the fact that there's 2 of them, maybe that's my mistake is I'm looking at it from a singular needle. So if there's 2 needles per turn, that's +1 rate on 2 needles, which means you're accumulating 6. If the turn 3 turns is 6 fat, but you're not swinging every, so I would say 1.5 a turn over the course of average game length now is probably 5 to 6 on these ninja decks is 7.5 value. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, no, I think what was happening was I was looking at Zephyr as 1 and not doing the math based on there being 2 of them. So which obviously you would just take the math and you would double it, which becomes, you know, um, that's the problem, John, is it's not advantageous to break the needles because it's very hard to identify whether you actively want like there's three cases scenarios, right? Where they have nothing lined up with the needle. There's actually four different scenarios. There's they don't have a plan for you breaking the needle, right? That's option one. Two is they are if you break it, they're just going to retrieve it with a up to six. They're going to play at the middle of the turn, right? So you breaking it only costs them a resource, which is not the end of the world because the other dagger is probably going to hit anyway. Or they're just going to flick it, which means it gets broken anyway. So what ultimately ends up happening is you're in that situation where I might be speaking too soon, but it's like I don't think you can outplay it. There's so many different options that it's very difficult to identify what they're actively doing, and it becomes just a guessing game. And what it basically turns into, I'm going to do whatever I want to do to extract value from my hand, which essentially removes every aspect of, oh, I can break it, right? Flick knives might be the most broken card. And I mean, of course, right? There's a reason that it jumped up to like what, $170 or something like that. Um, it's big. It is big. That's for sure. Ban up sticks. I mean, up sticks is good. Don't get me wrong. We already went over that. Could it be that Kadachi requires zero cost pitch? I don't know. I don't think all of her stuff is zero cost anyway. It wouldn't change. It wouldn't change anything. On turns where you swing them 3 times, you get +3 value per turn. Kadachi, which is kind of strong. Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I mean that the point. Like I think the breakdown is probably somewhere in the ballpark of like 75% of the time they actively want you to block the needle. That's the problem. And then 25% they would rather it go through so they can get the resource. Like that's honestly the situation, which is not a feels good situation to be honest. So I don't hate the idea of bringing needles down. Bring back low power fab. Hold up. Timeout. We haven't even the set's not even out. We haven't got the high power fab. You can also juggle chain break. Yeah, you can retrieve in the middle of a turn, and of course. Like it's impossible to know whether they are relying on you not breaking it or not. It is literally I'm very confident in saying that like in 6 months at the highest level, it's gonna be like you do it in this spot or not kind of situation. And there's gonna be not as much skill expression as people will lead on in that accord. So, but I do think the deck is very good. And after thinking on it, maybe needle is the problem. Or a possible problem. I don't want to say it's a problem yet. It's a little early, but um it's a lot of value. If you just think, up sticks and run onto a Zephyr needle that's 6 into needle into 1 for 5, right? Just a normal, like standard 3 card line. That's 6, 3, 9, 14. It's a 3 card 14. If you just graveyard hate might be required, this RTN. But see, that's the problem. Is what I'm predicting is, oh, everybody's recognizing this is good. We're gonna try graveyard removal, and it's gonna work for exactly 2 weeks. And then all the ninjas are just gonna realize is they need to change their play pattern to where you do not end your turn with a dagger in your graveyard. Because as long as you don't do that, Passover is the only card in the game that removes it. So, um, yeah, like that makes sense. So I think that the graveyard hate is only going to be good for a week or two, maybe through RTN season tops, but then it's gonna fall off. Like London, nobody's gonna be doing that shit. Nobody. Is invert existence worth running in Vincent to banish daggers? That's probably the only use case, simply because it's on demand. The problem is like, how long are you gonna hold on to that card? And you're pitching it to do it. You're not dealing damage, so once again, it's just you lose in that transaction. You are pitching a card and been set. A, you don't want to be doing that. Two, you are using an entire card to banish the needle, which is not an attack or a non-attack, so therefore you're dealing no damage. So you're pitching a card and playing a card to deny them. Congrats, you gave them 6 value anyway by transacting in that way. So there's just no great the attacks are the only like efficient in Passover, obviously. Are the only like efficient solution because they're actively doing something, sending damage, whatever, while removing them. Instant speed graveyard interaction might work. That could be the case. Yes, that something like that would work, but I'm gonna have to go over the cards, the card pool, but I don't think there is anything that does that. Needle, blue, 1 for 5 is a 2 card 10 every turn. Yeah. I mean that's what I'm saying. It just gets out of hand so quickly. And that's we're not even getting into like, oh, the dagger hit, make a resource flick, right? It's a free damage. It's actually wild. Like it it turns into a 2 card 11. Um really quickly. The grave hay is useless against yeah, yeah. I was brewing this for a few days now. I actually had concealed blades and an extra needle in the sideboard to counter one Passover. Exactly. Like there's going to be so many ways that they can just adapt over that situation because historically, like a good example of this dynamic is Chains of Imminence. When has Chains of Imminence ever truly solved a solution in Fab? The answer is never. Has it showed up in some use cases every now and again, but it's never like hard solved a problem and like stayed in the meta, right? Um, so I think we'll see a week or two of graveyard solution innovation, and then we'll immediately figure out that that shit ain't good enough. Because it's hard to juggle that while they're throwing 2 card 11s, 2 card 10s, things like that. You just don't have the flexibility to come up with below rate answers while getting hit in the face is the problem. Other than that, some things that I'm gonna have to try is just go all in on breaking needles. Just like this is gonna sound stupid as fuck, but like unmovable type shit. Like literally. Just go all in on snapping needles. And is that enough? I don't fucking know. I have no clue. There are exactly 3 instant speed graveyard banishes: pass over sacred art, which is dog shit, and invert. Yep, that's it. Vincent? Vincent? No, I don't know. I don't know. Vinny's gonna have a hard time keeping up with 2 card 11s. Like, imagine doing that and not having to balance room chance. I'm just saying. This card to break needles is Rainbow Steel Blade Shunt. I saw a couple of those today. I saw a couple of those. That is true though. But you have to play Warriors so you're cooked. See, Shamir knows. Shamir knows. Unfortunately, Josh, cover your ears if you're listening. Warrior does not seem like it's. I have my doubts. I don't think that from a meta perspective that this set's really gonna help Warrior just go above and beyond. Block 9, Sin 9 is some good balling. I mean, it is. Or you could do the exact same thing way easier. Way easier. Unfortunately, I cannot do a tier list. I'm not ready, but tier list will be next week. Next week's stream will be tier list, 100%. How would the game would be shaped if Brian was not that in love with assassins? I don't know. I mean, the past 30 minutes we've been discussing how broken Needle is, right? Needle's a ninja card, so I don't know if that's got too much to do with it. Why can't they once print cards for Ninja that don't break the game? Thoughts? I'm trying to come up with a witty response to that, but so far they God damn it. They're 0 for 3 on the last 3 of them. Fi Stubbies was out, completely broke the game in half for like 3 weeks. Zen broke the game in half for 3 or 4 months. I'm not ready to say this is gonna break the game in half. Let's give the players a chance, but it's looking. We'll see. We'll see. Um, I I truly believe that maybe Zen does. I'm trying to figure out if Zen is the better way to play that style deck over Ira. Because you gain an extreme advantage over Viscerai, whereas Ira, even in that aggressive style, is kind of bad into Viscerai. So I am. I think Zen might be the ninja on top still. Although that's a bit of a hot take right now, and the burden of proof is on me. But I'm gonna figure that out. I'm gonna figure it out. But the math is mathing in a way to where I think Zen has to be the better deck. You can't tell me that better flick flacks and your blues and attacking for +1 every turn is better than traverse the universe and your blues being reds. Now it may take some like genius deck building, sure, but like just on the surface comparing the structures, one is clearly the winner, is all I'm saying. So I just got to figure out, you know, Very curious about Zen versus Ira. I think the floor is higher on Ira, but I think the ceiling is higher on Zen. That's my current opinion. Could change, but I'll have a better solidified opinion next week for the tier list. Um, Ninja is inherently broken because the nature of go wide that can be synergistic in a way to stack damage and multiple breakpoints. Uh, yeah, but like we've never seen this amount of go wide. Because flick knives is not it is interactable, but it's like basically uninteractable damage. And it just adds and adds and adds and I don't know. Maybe aggro's back. I'm gonna call it finesse though, not aggro. Um Ira has fewer no blocks. Zen has more blues, so it's a meta call if there's rune blades or not, right? I mean, that's probably that could be where it lands. I think the biggest factors probably gonna be is weakest link in the format, and then second, um, is there a weakest link or what the situation is for the mirror match at the final state. That's the two things that are really gonna matter. And then obviously, like you said, the rune blade. Mystic is the most powerful talent, so Zen makes sense as the better ninja. I mean, the toolkit just says that that's the case. That's where I'm going into the tier list with, okay, somebody has to prove me wrong that Zen is not the better one instead of vice versa. Whereas everybody else, I think 90% of people think that Ira is the best ninja right now. Um, that's just something I have to disagree with. I mean, you're right. Every time the game's broken, it's typically on the axis of aggression. I did a whole stream on that. Basically, you're not wrong. Probably only a temporary question. Anyway, was in so close to LL. You're 100% right. After RTN season, he's probably gone. To be honest, he's pretty close. All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the initial analysis of the set. I wish I could have brought a little bit more for Fang and Syndra. I'm going to go into the lab, work on that over the next week or so, and try to come back with something a little bit more solidified for the tier list because that's the biggest reason on why I'm pushing it 1 week. Is I want to be accurate. I take a lot of pride in how accurate the tier lists are and try to just do my best. Um, and yeah, so I'm gonna do it when I am ready, which will still be technically before the set drops. Which is always my goal. I always try to do it at least right before or right after it drops. Uh, right after spoilers is way too soon for me personally. So I want to thank everybody for joining me on the stream. I really, really do appreciate it. And I hope everybody joins me for the tier list next week. It's always it's always a good one. I get so much feedback, either people agreeing, disagreeing. I like both feedback because anytime people are disagreeing, people are learning, right? And that's what it's all about. So if you disagreed with anything I said today or have a better point about something, leave it in the comments. Um, I never approach things with everything I say is correct. I am actively trying to learn like everybody else. And yeah, just trying to provide value and viewpoints that can help players look at things in a little different way or streamline their thought process or deck building decisions. That's my main goal of doing these streams. And of course, just interacting with all of you, cool and fine people. So thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I will see everybody, I'm sure, next week for the tier list. And then I will see everybody in the commentary booth at Memphis for the Battle Hardened. I'll be playing in the CC calling on Friday, and then I'll be commentating for LSS on Sunday for the Battle Hardened. Any initial thoughts on Limited Hunted? I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Haven't played any of it. I'd love to go into pre-releases blind, have a good time, learn with everybody else. I think it makes the most optimal experience. So, thanks everybody for joining me. Really do